Something from the bench. So this is a locomotive I picked up in an auction for about $20. It is an O-gauge Atlas steam locomotive. The shell's cast metal. It's got a 281 under the windows. The tender is cast as well. The big 1911 down the side. And when I got this, it was dead as a doornail. There's supposed to be a board inside, electronics to make this thing run, and it was toast. So this started my first DC rebuild. All of the old pre-war, post-war Lionel stuff was an AC motor. Okay, so that's a AC motor from a 752, a 249, and they had an armature that spun sideways inside. The problem is they're bulky. Side to side, you had to have room for the armature and the brushes, so your locomotives had to be bigger. It's solved by using one of these. This is a DC can motor. Very, very cheap, very, very inexpensive. On the back, you have two connections. The problem is old locomotive track that I runs on AC current. So to solve that, we have a bridge rectifier. Bridge rectifier is this four-prong little device where your AC terminals go to 2, and then your DC to the motor come out of the other 2. That will allow this DC can motor to run on AC current. The problem is it will only run one direction. If you hook it up and the locomotive runs backwards, you switch the connections on the back of the DC motor, and now it only runs forward. Unless you use one of these little guys. This is a double pole, double throw switch. It has 6 different connections. On here, you would take your wires coming out of your bridge rectifier and put them on opposite sides of one end. You then run a crisscross with one wire crisscrossing from like the top to the bottom, and then top side here to the bottom over here. Then out of the center, you run that to your DC motor. And by flicking the switch, it's a 3-way. You can go forward, set it in the center, it's off. Put it the other direction, it runs in reverse. So what I did was, on this little Atlas motor, here is my bridge rectifier. I bolted it to the side of the frame. I ran 2 wires. My centers were my power from the track. Those ran up to my smoker. This has a manually driven pump that runs off the wheels. It's a little geared system. My outside terminals went back here, and I used this little double pole, double throw DPDT switch back here so that I could set the directions or turn the motor off. And then from there, ran it to my DC motor. So that, just like on an old pre-war Lionel, I can manually control the direction that this locomotive is going to go by throwing a switch, just like a Lionel did like on the 154s, and later like 256s. So let me put the top back on. We'll show you on the tracks. Okay, so here's our Atlas on the track. I have it pulling a couple of Lionel passenger cars, post-war 1630 and 1631s I restored. The only thing that was kind of a setback on this was I kind of blew the headlight on it. So I was looking around and I found this place called Evans Designs. And they do LED and lights for AC current and DC current, and they already have capacitors in them. Super easy to install, not expensive, so they light up nice and bright. So I've got my double pole switch set to forward. You can see the smoke works really well. But my little $20 Atlas O-gauge locomotive